The metal walls of the ISS Valiant hummed with a nervous energy, unlike anything Lieutenant John Miller had felt before. 6 different alien species walked these halls now, and the humans were no longer alone in space. John straightened his navy blue uniform as he waited outside the main conference room. Captain Olivia Martinez had summoned him 10 minutes ago, but the meeting with the alien delegates was running long. John stood at parade rest, his muscular frame looking deceptively average next to the 7-foot-tall guards from the Carvax delegation. The reptilian aliens glanced at him occasionally, their scaled faces hard to read but their body language clear enough. They were not impressed by what they saw. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Martinez emerged, followed by a colorful assortment of alien representatives. She spotted John and nodded curtly. "Lieutenant Miller, perfect timing. Please join us in the observation deck. The delegates have requested a demonstration of human physical capabilities." John fell into step beside her as they moved through the corridor. "Any specific parameters for this demonstration, Captain?" Martinez lowered her voice. "Show competence, but not mastery. Earth Command wants to establish respect without revealing all our capabilities." She glanced at the aliens walking ahead of them. "Especially with the Carvax. They respect strength but react poorly to perceived threats." The observation deck had been transformed since John last saw it. Training mats covered the floor and various exercise equipment lined the walls. Several crew members were already there, along with more alien visitors watching from the sidelines. Commander Zarkon, the Carvax delegation leader, turned as they entered. Nearly 8 feet tall with dark green scales and amber eyes, he dominated the room not just with his size but with an aura of predatory confidence. "Captain Martinez," he said, his voice a rumbling bass that matched his imposing frame. "Is this your combat specialist?" He looked John up and down, making no effort to hide his dismissal. "Lieutenant Miller is one of our security officers," Martinez replied carefully. "He has agreed to participate in our cultural exchange of combat techniques." John offered the formal greeting they had been taught, right fist pressed to left shoulder, a gesture apparently universal enough among the Galactic Council species. Zarkon's mouth twitched in what might have been amusement. "On my world, he would barely qualify as a juvenile's first hunt." John kept his expression neutral even as he noted how the other alien delegates reacted. The blue-skinned Ilarians seemed uncomfortable while the stocky Taurians watched with scientific interest. This was as much diplomacy as it was physical training. Perhaps a demonstration would be more informative than speculation, John suggested calmly. "Indeed." Captain Martinez gestured toward the training area. "We've scheduled demonstrations from each species over the next week. Today we begin with basic physical assessments. For the next hour, representatives from each species showed their physical capabilities. The Carvax warriors lifted impossible weights with ease. The Ilarians demonstrated flexibility that would make Olympic gymnasts jealous. The beetle-like Zorians showed remarkable endurance. When John's turn came, he performed well but within human norms, running at a good but not exceptional pace, lifting weights that would impress humans but not aliens, and showing fighting stances without revealing specialized techniques. Throughout his demonstration, he felt Zarkon's eyes on him, evaluating and dismissing. Later, in the ship's dining hall, John sat with Dr. Samantha Collins, the Valiant's chief xenobiologist. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail as she leaned forward, speaking quietly. "The Carvax are apex predators on their homeworld," she explained. "Their entire social structure revolves around dominance hierarchies. They see us as prey species who somehow got lucky with technology." John took a bite of his meal. "That explains the condescension." "More than that." Sam tapped her datapad, bringing up information. "Their society values decisive action. Showing weakness invites aggression, but appearing too strong might trigger defensive reactions." Across the room, several Carvax warriors sat together, occasionally glancing toward the human tables. One made a gesture that looked like mimicking holding something small and fragile, then crushing it. The others made rumbling sounds John recognized as laughter. "They're not exactly subtle," John noted. "They don't need to be. On their world, they're at the top of the food chain." Sam took a sip of her water. The interesting thing is they requested this exchange program. They want something from us even if they're pretending we have nothing to offer. Their conversation was interrupted when Commander Zarkon approached their table. He towered over them, his clawed hands clasped behind his back. Lieutenant Miller, I have been reviewing your demonstration. His voice carried across the room, causing conversations to quiet. My warriors were disappointed. We had heard humans were adaptable fighters. John stood slowly, aware that many eyes were watching this interaction. Combat demonstrations are scheduled for next week, Commander. Today was just basic physical assessment. Indeed. Zarkon's amber eyes narrowed. I look forward to seeing if humans have any techniques worth studying, or if your species' reputation is merely exaggerated. After the commander left, Captain Martinez found John in the corridor. Walk with me, Lieutenant. Once they were alone in the elevator, she spoke more freely. There's been a change in plans. The Karvax have pushed up the combat demonstrations. They want a sparring match in 2 days, John frowned. Why the rush? They're testing boundaries. The elevator stopped and they stepped out into the officer's deck. Earth Command is concerned. The Karvax are key members of the Galactic Council. Their support would fast-track humanity's petition for membership. They reached the captain's office, and Martinez closed the door before continuing. I'm assigning you as humanity's representative for the first sparring match. Against who? Martinez pulled up a holographic display showing a Karvax warrior even larger than Zarkon. Subcommander Drek, their combat specialist. John studied the alien statistics with a professional eye. He outweighs me by at least 100 pounds, probably twice my strength. I know it's not ideal, Martinez admitted. But you have the best combination of combat training and diplomatic sense. We need someone who can handle themselves without escalating the situation. John nodded slowly. Parameters? Perform adequately, show enough skill to earn respect, but not so much that they see us as a threat. Martinez looked at him directly. We need to earn their respect, not their fear. Understood, Captain. That night, John reviewed everything they knew about Karvax physiology and fighting styles. Their thick scales provided natural armor. Their claws and teeth were natural weapons. Their reflexes were surprisingly fast for their size. But they had weaknesses too. Joints were less protected. Their fighting style relied heavily on intimidation and overwhelming force. And most importantly, they underestimated humans completely. As John finally prepared for sleep, his personal communication device chimed with an encrypted message from Captain Martinez. Security footage shows Zarkon instructing Drek not to hold back, be prepared. John turned off the lights and lay in darkness, mentally preparing for what was coming. The Spar was supposed to be just training, a cultural exchange, but it was clear now that the Karvax had something else in mind. John would be ready. The next morning, John rose early and headed to the ship's gym. He needed to prepare his body and mind for the upcoming challenge. The room was empty except for a small, gray-skinned Ilarian practicing what looked like a dance but was actually their species' martial art form. The alien nodded politely as John entered. Lieutenant Miller, you are awake early. As are you, Ambassador Liren, John replied, recognizing the highest-ranking Ilarian on board. Liren's movements were graceful as water flowing over stones. I wish to practice without an audience. Imagine you feel the same. John began his warm-up routine. Is it that obvious? The Karvax have made no secret of their challenge. Liren paused, four-fingered hands forming a complex gesture. They see your species as inadequate. It colors their judgment. And what do the Ilarians think of humans? John asked, moving into push-ups. Liren considered this for a moment. We think you are young, but interesting. Your species lacks physical advantages but compensates with creativity. The alien's large eyes blinked slowly. The Karvax mistake physical strength for true power. It is an error they have made before. After Liren left, John continued his training, focusing on movements and techniques that would serve him well against a larger opponent. He avoided using his full speed or showing his most effective moves. The ship likely had cameras in the gym, and he didn't want the Karvax studying his capabilities beforehand. At breakfast, the mess hall buzzed with talk about the upcoming sparring match. John ate quietly at a corner table until Dr. Samantha Collins joined him. "You're the talk of the ship," she said, setting down her tray. "The Taurians are taking bets on how long you'll last against Drek." John took a bite of his food. "And what odds are they giving?" "Not good ones," Sam admitted. "But I put my credits on you lasting at least 5 minutes." "Your confidence is touching," John said with a small smile. Sam leaned closer. "I've been studying the Karvax combat footage. They rely on intimidation as much as actual fighting. Their attacks are powerful but predictable. Good to know. Just be careful," she said, her expression serious. "Drek is their champion for a reason. He's won over 30 ritual combat challenges." Later that day, Captain Martinez called a briefing for the human crew involved in the sparring event. The ship's small conference room was tense as she laid out the situation. "The match is scheduled for Oro 900 tomorrow. Training weapons only, and medics will be standing by." Martinez looked directly at John. "Lieutenant, I want to be clear about the goals here. This is not about winning or losing. It's about showing that humans are competent enough to be taken seriously." Lieutenant Kevin Walsh, the ship's security chief, spoke up. "With all due respect, Captain, the Karvax don't think that way. To them, combat is about establishing dominance." "I'm aware," Martinez replied. "But we have larger concerns than one match. The Galactic Council is watching how we handle ourselves. We need to balance showing strength with avoiding unnecessary provocation." After the meeting, John found himself in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. He heard heavy footsteps behind him and turned to see Subcommander Drek enter the room. Up close, the Karvax warrior was even more imposing. Nearly 8 feet tall, with dark green scales armoring his body and amber eyes that looked like they could see in the dark. John nodded in acknowledgement but said nothing. Drek moved to stand beside him, also looking at the stars. "Your species has good ships," he said finally. "Thank you," John replied. "But good ships do not make good warriors." Drek's voice was deeper than Zarkon's, rumbling like distant thunder. "Tomorrow, we will see what humans are truly made of." "Indeed, we will." Drek turned to face John fully. "On my world, before a hunt, it is customary to know your prey. Tell me, human, what makes you think you can stand against a Karvax warrior?" John met the alien's gaze steadily. "On my world, Sub-Commander, we have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog." Drek's expression changed slightly as his translator processed this. "Interesting. We shall see how much fight is in you tomorrow." After Drek left, John was about to return to his quarters when he noticed Dr. Collins standing in the doorway. "That was tense," she said, walking over. "I caught the end of your conversation." "He was sizing me up." Sam nodded. "Classic predator behavior. But you didn't show fear, which probably confused him." She handed John a small data device. "Here's what I could find on Karvax pressure points and joint vulnerabilities. Not much, but might help." Later that evening, John was summoned to Captain Martinez's private office. To his surprise, Director Frank Boyd from Earth Intelligence was on the secure video channel. "Lieutenant Miller," Boyd said after introductions were made. "I'll be direct. This match has taken on greater significance than we anticipated. The Karvax are an influential voice in the Galactic Council. Their assessment of humanity could affect our standing for years to come." John stood at attention. "Understood, sir." "The original parameters have changed," Boyd continued. "Captain Martinez informed me of the Karvax commander's instructions to his fighter. They're not approaching this as a friendly exchange." "What are my new parameters, sir?" Boyd exchanged a look with Martinez before answering. "Show enough skill to earn respect. Don't lose too quickly or too easily. That would confirm their low opinion of us. But don't humiliate them either. A narrow path to walk," John commented. "Indeed," Martinez agreed. "But you're the best we have for this task, Lieutenant." That night, John reviewed the data from Sam one last time. then tried to get some sleep. His mind kept going back to his years of combat training, first as a Marine, then as a security specialist. He had faced bigger opponents before. The difference was that tomorrow, he wasn't just fighting for himself. He was representing all of humanity. Morning came quickly. John ate a light breakfast and performed his usual stretches. As he prepared in his quarters, pulling on the black training uniform provided for the match, he received a message from Sam. Analyze the training room setup. The floor has less traction near the east wall. Might be useful. John made a mental note of this information as he headed toward the training deck. In the corridor, he passed several alien delegates heading the same way. The match had become the main event on the ship, with representatives from all 6 alien species planning to attend. As he approached the training deck, John took a deep breath and centered himself. Whatever happened in the next hour would affect humanity's standing among the stars. He had his orders: show competence but not dominance, skill but not superiority. But as he entered the room and saw Drek performing an intimidating display of strength and speed for the gathered crowd, John had a feeling that plans would change once the match began. Some lessons could only be taught through action. The training deck fell quiet as John walked to the center of the mat. The moment of truth had arrived. The training deck of the ISS Valiant had never been so crowded. Aliens and humans lined the walls, creating a circle around the central mat where the sparring match would take place. Captain Martinez stood with the other ship officers on one side. Commander Zarkon and his Carvax delegation occupied the opposite wall, their scaled faces showing anticipation. John walked to the center of the mat, his black training uniform, a stark contrast to his calm face. He felt the weight of the moment but kept his breathing steady. Across from him, Sub-Commander Drek performed another series of stretches that showed off his impressive muscular frame. The Carvax warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, his green scales gleaming under the bright lights. Dr. Collins caught John's eye from her position near the medical team. She gave him a small nod, which he returned before focusing his attention on his opponent. Captain Martinez stepped forward. This demonstration is part of our cultural exchange program. The purpose is to share combat techniques between our species. She looked between John and Drek. Training weapons only. Match ends with submission or when I call it. Is that understood? Understood, John replied. Drek bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. Understood, though I doubt this will take long. Several of the Carvax warriors made rumbling noises that their translator didn't catch, but John recognized as laughter. He kept his face neutral, taking note of the less grippy flooring near the east wall that Sam had mentioned. Martinez handed each fighter a training staff made of flexible but durable material. Begin when ready. She stepped back, and a tense silence fell over the room. Drek immediately took an aggressive stance, holding his staff with practiced ease. He circled John slowly, his amber eyes never blinking. John held his own staff loosely, turning to keep Drek in view. No need to delay the inevitable, human, Drek said, his deep voice carrying across the room. Attack if you dare. John remained, patient, analyzing Drek's movements. The Carvax was trying to bait him into making the first move. Instead of responding to the taunt, John adjusted his grip on the staff and continued circling. After several more moments of tension, Drek lost patience. With surprising speed for his size, he lunged forward, swinging his staff in a powerful arc aimed at John's head. John didn't try to block the powerful blow. Instead, he stepped inside the arc, ducking under the staff. He was close enough now to smell Drek's breath, a scent like warm leather and spice. Time seemed to slow for John as his training took over. In one fluid motion, he struck the inside of Drek's knee with his own staff, not hard enough to injure, but precisely where the scales were thinner over the joint. Drek grunted in surprise more than pain. He tried to step back to gain space, but John stayed close, denying the larger fighter the advantage of reach. The Carvax warrior swung again, this time a low sweep meant to take John's legs out. John jumped over the staff and used the momentum to strike Drek's outstretched arm at another joint, the elbow, where Sam's data had indicated another vulnerable spot. This time Drek roared, a sound that made several observers step back. The Carvax's eyes narrowed in anger as he realized the human was targeting his weak points with precise strikes. John knew he had seconds before Drek adjusted his strategy. He needed to end this quickly before the alien's superior strength became the deciding factor. He moved backward, drawing Drek toward the eastern side of the mat where the flooring had less traction. Drek charged forward, his powerful legs propelling him across the mat with frightening speed. His clawed hand reached out to grab John's uniform, a move that would let him use his superior strength. John waited until the last possible moment, then sidestepped. As Drek's momentum carried him forward onto the slicker flooring, John swept the Carvax's leg with perfect timing. The room fell silent as the massive alien lost his balance. John didn't waste the opportunity. As Drek began to fall, John used the alien's own momentum against him, guiding the much larger body to the floor. Before Drek could recover, John applied a joint lock to the Carvax's arm and shoulder, using leverage rather than strength to immobilize his opponent. He pressed the end of his training staff against a nerve cluster at the base of Drek's skull, not hard enough to injure, but with enough pressure to make his intent clear. Just like that, it was over. The entire exchange, from Drek's first attack to his immobilization on the floor, had taken exactly 12 seconds. The training deck remained completely silent except for Drek's shocked breathing. John maintained the hold, waiting for Captain Martinez to call the match. Commander Zarkon stepped forward before she could speak. "Release him," he ordered John, his voice tight with controlled emotion. John looked to Captain Martinez, who nodded. He immediately released the hold and stepped back, offering a hand to help Drek up as he would with a human sparring partner. Drek ignored the offered hand, rising slowly to his feet. His amber eyes fixed on John with an unreadable expression. The Carvax warrior touched his shoulder, where John had applied the joint lock, then brought his hand to his chest in what appeared to be a formal salute. "The match goes to Lieutenant Miller," Captain Martinez announced into the continuing silence. The room erupted in murmurs and exclamations in various alien languages. John caught fragments from the translators. "Impossible" and "How did he" and "So fast" repeated in different voices. John returned Drek's salute, maintaining the respectful demeanor he'd been instructed to show. Inside, though, he knew he had gone beyond his orders. The demonstration was supposed to show competence, not dominance. But once Drek had attacked with full force, John had made a split-second decision to end the match quickly rather than drag it out. Captain Martinez approached him, her expression controlled but her eyes conveying a clear message. "We need to talk." "Lieutenant, report to medical for check-in," she said loudly enough for others to hear. It was a reasonable request after combat, but John understood it was also an excuse to get him out of the room. As John walked toward the exit, he noticed the varied reactions among the alien delegates. The Ilarians watched him with new interest, while the Taurians were already discussing something excitedly among themselves. The Carvax warriors stood rigid, their expressions hard to read. Dr. Collins fell into step beside him as he left the training deck. "That was not exactly performing adequately," she whispered. "It seemed like the best option at the time," John replied quietly. "Well, you've certainly made an impression." She glanced back at the room they were leaving. For better or worse, they're not going to underestimate humans anymore. In the medical bay, as Dr. Collins ran a scanner over him to check for injuries, John's communicator beeped with a message from Captain Martinez. "Director Boyd wants a full debrief. My office, 1 hour." John sighed. The Spar was meant for training, not for him to take down a Carvax predator in 12 seconds. But sometimes plans changed when faced with reality. Now he would have to deal with the diplomatic fallout of his actions. As he sat on the medical bed, he noticed something unexpected through the doorway. Commander Zarkon was watching him, the Carvax leader's expression thoughtful rather than angry. When their eyes met, Zarkon gave a small nod before turning away. Perhaps, John thought, things hadn't gone so badly after all. An hour after the match, John stood at attention in Captain Martinez's office. Director Boyd's stern face filled the video screen on the wall. Captain Martinez sat behind her desk, her expression carefully neutral. "Lieutenant Miller, Director," Boyd began. "Would you care to explain how perform adequately translated to take down an alien warrior in 12 seconds? John kept his gaze forward. "Sir, once the match began, it became clear that Subcommander Drek was not holding back. He attacked with full force. I made a judgment call that a quick, decisive end would be less diplomatically damaging than a drawn-out struggle." "Explain your reasoning," Martinez said. John chose his words carefully. "A prolonged match would have looked like I was toying with him, sir. In my experience, that creates more resentment than a clean, quick defeat. I aim to be effective without being insulting." Boyd and Martinez exchanged a look. After a moment, Boyd sighed. "Well, what's done is done. The question now is how we handle the aftermath. The ship's been buzzing with talk," Martinez said. "Every species has a different reaction. The Alarians seem impressed, the Taurians are excited, and the Carvax—" She frowned. "That's harder to read." "Have they filed any formal complaint?" John asked. "Surprisingly, no," Boyd replied. "In fact, Commander Zarkon has requested more information about human combat training. But we're walking a fine line here, Lieutenant. We wanted respect, not fear." A knock at the door interrupted them. Martinez called for entry, and Dr. Collins stepped in. "Sorry to interrupt, Captain, but I thought you should see this." She handed over a data pad. "It's a formal request from the Carvax delegation. They want to know if Lieutenant Miller would be willing to demonstrate more human combat techniques." John blinked in surprise. Boyd leaned forward on the screen. "What exactly are they asking for?" "Apparently," Sam explained, "in Carvax culture, defeating a champion in combat earns you a certain status. They want to learn from the victor." Martinez read through the request. "It seems genuine. No indication of it being a trap or attempt at revenge." "Lieutenant," Boyd addressed John directly, "you're our expert on the ground. What's your assessment?" John considered before answering. "I believe Dr. Collins is right about their culture. The quick defeat may have actually saved face for them. It can be attributed to surprise or technique rather than true weakness. They're warriors at heart. They respect skill." After the meeting ended, John walked with Sam through the ship's corridors. Crew members they passed gave John respectful nods, and some even looked at him with new admiration. "You've become a celebrity overnight," Sam remarked. "The video of the match has been shared with every crew member." "Great," John said dryly. "Just what I wanted." They rounded a corner and nearly bumped into a group of aliens. 2 Alarians, a Taurian, and surprisingly, a young Carvax warrior. The aliens stopped talking immediately when they saw John. The young Carvax stepped forward. "Lieutenant Miller, I am Junior Warrior Krell." His voice held none of the dismissiveness John had come to expect from the Carvax. "Your combat technique was—" He seemed to search for the right word. "Efficient." Coming from a Carvax, this was high praise. John nodded respectfully. "Thank you. Your warriors are formidable opponents. Would you—" Krell hesitated, looking almost embarrassed. "Would you show me how you executed that final move?" Before John could answer, an older Carvax voice called out, "Krell, return immediately." The young warrior stiffened. "I must go." He turned quickly and hurried away, leaving John and Sam standing with the other aliens. The Taurian scientist, Dr. Vorn, adjusted his translator. "Fascinating cultural shift happening before our eyes. The Carvax youth are curious about you, Lieutenant. The elders are conflicted." Later that evening, John entered the ship's observation lounge for a scheduled meeting with Commander Zarkon. The Carvax leader was already there, standing by the large window that showed the stars outside. "Lieutenant Miller." Zarkon acknowledged without turning. "I appreciate you agreeing to this private meeting." "Of course, Commander." John remained near the door, giving the larger alien plenty of space. Zarkon finally turned. "You have created quite a situation for us both. My superiors expected reports of human weakness. Instead, I must tell them one human defeated our best warrior in combat." John stayed silent, waiting. Sub-Commander Drek has never been defeated so quickly. Zarkon continued. Not even by other Karvax. He is a skilled fighter, John offered diplomatically. In a different scenario, the outcome might have been different. Zarkon made a sound that might have been a laugh. You humans are interesting. You show strength, then immediately downplay it. He moved closer to John. Tell me honestly, were you holding back during the match? John knew this was a critical moment for human Karvax relations. We all have different strengths, Commander. Drek is stronger than me. I simply used leverage and timing. An answer without answering. Zarkon showed his teeth in what John now recognized as a smile. Perhaps humans and Karvax are not so different after all. The next morning, Captain Martinez called John to the bridge. Director Boyd was on the main screen again, but this time he wasn't alone. A serious-looking woman in a formal uniform stood beside him. Lieutenant Miller, Martinez said. This is Director Patricia Nguyen, Earth's Galactic Council liaison. Nguyen nodded at John. Lieutenant, your demonstration has caused quite a stir. Several species that were hesitant about deeper relations with Earth have suddenly expressed interest. Boyd added, the Alarians have proposed a joint training program. The Taurians want to study human combat techniques, and most surprisingly, the Karvax have suggested a security partnership. All because of a 12-second fight? John asked, skeptical. Nguyen's expression remained serious. Species who've been in space for centuries tend to value actions over words, Lieutenant. Your fight showed humanity isn't just technically advanced but physically capable despite our apparent limitations. Your new orders, Martinez said, handing John a datapad, are to establish a training exchange program with interested alien delegates. Earth Command believes this could be a valuable way to build trust. John glanced at the details on the pad. Including with the Karvax? Especially with the Karvax, Boyd confirmed. They're key members of the Galactic Council. Their support could fast-track humanity's petition for full membership. That afternoon, John found Sub-Commander Drek in the ship's gym, working with a punching bag designed for Karvax strength levels. The alien warrior stopped when he noticed John. Lieutenant, Drek said, surprising John with the use of his proper rank. Sub-Commander, John replied. How's your shoulder? Drek rotated his arm. Fully functional. Your hold was precise, effective without causing lasting damage. He sounded almost impressed. I've been ordered to establish a training exchange, John said. I was hoping you might participate. Drek studied him for a long moment. You would teach Karvax warriors your techniques? After I tried to humiliate you? That was a match. This is diplomacy, John said simply. The large alien nodded slowly. Among my people, defeating an opponent earns the right to instruct them. I will participate in your exchange, if you agree to spar with me again someday. John smiled slightly. Deal. As he left the gym, John's communicator beeped with a message from Dr. Collins. News travels fast. Word of your match has spread to other ships. The Galactic Council representatives are requesting a formal demonstration when we reach the station. Next week. John sighed as he read the message. His simple training spar had somehow put him at the center of humanity's interstellar diplomacy efforts. And all because he took down a predator in 12 seconds. 1 week later, John stood in the massive central chamber of Galactic Council Station Epsilon 7. The circular room was filled with representatives from over 20 different species. Some he recognized from the Valiant, others he had never seen before. The room buzzed with countless languages, all flowing through his translator in a steady stream. Captain Martinez stood next to him, dressed in her formal uniform. Nervous, Lieutenant? Not about the demonstration, John replied quietly. More about what it represents. Martinez nodded. Earth Command is calling this the biggest diplomatic opportunity since first contact. No pressure. A soft chime sounded and the room gradually fell silent. Director Patricia Nguyen stepped onto the raised platform at the center of the chamber. Behind her stood Commander Zarkon and representatives from the other species that had been aboard the Valiant. Honored delegates, Nguyen began, her voice carried clearly through the chamber's audio system. We gather today to continue the cultural exchange begun aboard the ISS Valiant. With the permission of our hosts, Lieutenant John Miller of Earth will demonstrate human combat techniques alongside representatives from various council species. John took a deep breath and stepped forward. For the next hour, he worked with volunteers from different species, showing basic defensive moves adapted to their various body types. The audience watched with intense interest, particularly when he demonstrated techniques with Sub-Commander Drek. The Karvax warrior had proven to be a surprisingly dedicated student over the past week. Their size difference made certain moves impossible, but they had found common ground in techniques that used leverage and timing rather than raw strength. As the demonstration concluded, an elderly Zorian delegate asked, "How does a species without natural weapons develop such effective combat strategies?" John considered his answer carefully. Humans have always been physically weaker than the predators on our world. We survived by adapting and finding ways to overcome stronger opponents. Yet your techniques are not merely defensive, noted a Taurian observer. Sometimes the best defense is a decisive counter, John replied. We learned that waiting passively often leads to defeat. Commander Zarkon stepped forward. The human speaks truth. My people have always relied on our natural advantages. He gestured to his claws and teeth. We evolved as apex predators. But what happens when we face a challenge our physical strength cannot overcome? The question hung in the air. John realized Zarkon was addressing his own people as much as the wider audience. After the formal demonstration, a reception was held in one of the station's large gathering spaces. John found himself surrounded by curious delegates from various species, all eager to learn more about humans. Dr. Collins appeared at his side, rescuing him from an extremely technical conversation with 3 Taurian scientists. You're quite the celebrity, she said, handing him a drink. Not exactly what I signed up for, John replied. Well, get used to it. Director Nguyen just told me the Galactic Council has approved a permanent training exchange program. You're being offered the position of lead instructor. John nearly choked on his drink. Me? I'm just a security officer. A security officer who changed interstellar politics with one 12-second fight, Sam reminded him. Later, John found a quiet corner of the reception area. He was surprised when a group of young Karvax approached him. Junior warrior Krell was among them. Lieutenant Miller, Krell said formally. My squad mates wish to meet you. The young Karvax warriors stood nervously before him. John noticed they were all wearing training bands on their wrists, a sign they were still considered students in their culture. We watched your demonstration, one of them said. The way you adapted techniques for different species was impressive. Our combat instructors always told us that size and strength determine victory, another added. But you proved otherwise. John smiled slightly. Size and strength are advantages, but they're not everything. The most important weapon is here. He tapped his head. Would you... Krell hesitated. Would you be willing to show us that joint lock you used on Sub-Commander Drek? Our instructors refused to teach it. John considered the request. Only if you promise to use it responsibly. Combat techniques are for defense and training, not for settling disputes. The young Karvax agreed eagerly. For the next 20 minutes, John showed them the basics of the joint lock, adjusting it to work with their larger frames and different joint structure. He was impressed by how quickly they learned. As the young warriors finally left, Commander Zarkon approached. You have made quite an impression on our youth, he observed. They're good students, John replied, eager to learn new approaches. Zarkon was quiet for a moment. Our species has been spacefaring for over 300 years, Lieutenant. In that time, we have encountered many races who feared us for our strength. Some tried to defeat us with technology. Others avoided us entirely. He looked directly at John. Your species is the first to face us warrior to warrior and earn our respect. We don't want to be feared, John said. We're looking for allies, not subjects. A wise approach. Zarkon made a formal gesture with his hand. The Karvax High. Command has approved a permanent exchange of combat instructors. We would be honored if you would oversee the program. The next morning, John sat with Captain Martinez and Director Nguyen in a private meeting room. The three humans reviewed the offers that had come in overnight. 5 different species have requested permanent training exchanges, Nguyen said, scrolling through her data pad. The Alarians want to incorporate human techniques into their security forces. The Taurians want to study our approach to combat as a scientific discipline. And the Karvax. She looked up at John. Well, their offer is the most surprising. They want Lieutenant Miller, Martinez said. Specifically him, not just any human instructor. John frowned. I'm not a diplomat, I'm not even a full-time combat instructor. But you're the human who took down a Karvax predator in 12 seconds, Nguyen pointed out. That carries weight with them. And not just with the Karvax. Your demonstration yesterday has accelerated our acceptance among the Council species. John glanced out the window at the massive space station. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at its many arms. For centuries, humanity had looked to the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now they knew they weren't. And somehow, a simple training spar had helped secure their place among these ancient civilizations. Earth Command is creating a new position, Martinez told him. Interspecies Combat Liaison. The posting would be here, on Epsilon 7. You'd oversee training exchanges with all participating species. John thought about the eager young Karvax warriors, about Drek's growing respect, about the other species now looking at humans with new interest rather than dismissal. One condition, he said finally. Dr. Collins gets assigned as the cultural advisor. I need someone who understands the cultural implications of what we're teaching. Nguyen smiled. Already approved. She made the same request about you. As John left the meeting, he passed a large viewing window. Beyond it, the ISS Valiant prepared for departure, its mission complete. What had started as a simple cultural exchange had become something much more significant. And all because a spar meant for training had turned into something unexpected. John smiled to himself. Humans had always been good at the unexpected. It was how they had survived on Earth, and now it would help them thrive among the stars.